Hello, friends. It is great to be with you here this Monday morning. I'm just excited about all of the opportunity in the marketplace. So much going on, so much to share today, and I'm just pumped. I'm excited. I'm going to go ahead and just get rolling, and we will share some of the real estate headline roundups that I am seeing out in the marketplace. I think this is the most interesting one. It's call it a crash, call it a recession. The housing market is so weird right now that no one knows how to describe it. I thought this was a fair assessment. It is kind of weird what we're feeling. I definitely wouldn't call it a crash, and I definitely wouldn't call it a housing recession, but I definitely would call it weird. And something interesting is happening here. Many of you know that I also have a real estate brokerage, and what we're seeing are a lot of vendors. I'm seeing gift baskets, I'm seeing candy bouquets, I'm seeing cookies come in, I'm seeing a lot of vendors starting to resurface and come in and say, like, hey, we're seeing flyers from new builders, we're seeing 4% commission. So we are definitely seeing some change for sure. And I know you are as well. And I thought that the word weird was a great way to describe it. But I also think that there is some positive uptick in our market. Here's another one that I thought was really good. Mortgage rates finally sink back below 5%. And you may have noticed, but the 30-year fixed rate did dip below 5%. So last week it went to 4.99% on average, which is excellent news. This marks the second week in a row that mortgage rates have fallen. And so that is great news. We know that the market is definitely very sensitive to mortgage rates. Here was another headline from Redfin that said the housing market update, there's an uptick in searches and tours, and this highlights the buyer's mortgage rate sensitivity. Well, of course it does, because it's all about affordability. And when rates go higher, our affordability goes down. And so now that rates are coming back down, affordability is increasing, which is excellent news. And we are starting to see the market react to that. There were more searches for homes for sale on Google. Mortgage applications were slightly up, showing slightly up. So this is all great news. If you've been kind of feeling like the water faucet was turned off, which I've been talking with a lot of listing agents, and that's what they're saying is, unless the property was priced extremely competitively, it's kind of just been crickets. But we could see that tide start to change, especially if the rates continue to remain under that 5%. Maybe they even come down a little bit more. We will wait and see, but it is very interesting. Weird is a great way to describe it. But again, inventory still remains really low. Historically, we are at a critically low point in our inventory. Last week, the chief economist for NAR, Lawrence Yun, he spoke to Congress and he let them know that we have a deficit of about 6 million housing units nationwide. So we know that inventory is still low, and it's all about supply and demand. If the supply is low, demand still should be high. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these next few months play out. But I am still very optimistic and positive about our housing market. I don't think we're crashing. I don't think we're headed into this crazy doom and gloom housing bust. But it's a little bit different. And because it's a little bit different, we are going to have to shift our practices as well. And I want to talk as well about the realtor count, because it has skyrocketed. There was an article in New York Times that said why so many people became real estate agents during the pandemic. And it kind of cited the reasons, what we hear often: low barrier of entry, it's easy. One person in the article said that they got a Groupon to go to school and thought, oh, hey, I might as well. And so very, low barrier of entry, a really easy thing to do. And a lot of people got into real estate during the pandemic. Here were the states that had the most real estate agents join during the pandemic. You can see the number one state was Georgia. In Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Wyoming, Alabama, Montana, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Nevada. So look at all of those realtors that joined in. And then you'll also see the state that had the smallest change in agent count. And I was really surprised that Arizona was on the smallest change in real estate agent count. We are the number 3 per capita in the US for real estate agents. So we have a ton of realtors here. But this is where they were getting their license, and this is the states that they were in. So no doubt there is a ton of competition. I always like to look at the realtor count over time, and this is going back to 2000, and you can see, how the realtor count has risen. You can see that during the bountiful years of 2004, 2005, 2006. It grew and grew and grew. And then, markets crashed. We know what happened. The realtor count again adjusted accordingly. But look at how we just trended up, up, up. And you can see in 2022, we hit a record with almost 1.6 million realtors. But what I can share with you is the realtor count has went down 30,000 in just the past 30 days. So agents are leaving the business. They are unable to weather even the slightest storm, because I look at, the past couple months have been a little bit weird and different, but for this many of us to just completely get out of the business, I think is a telltale of what is to come, especially if the market remains somewhat unpredictable, which I think it is. And so interesting to note that some of your competition is leaving, and I think that's a good thing. I think that we can all agree that there's probably a dozen or so realtors in our area that we'd probably be off without. And so I think it's a good thing. This will separate the herd, so to speak, and really put us in a position of, getting better and being able to serve our community better. Now, I want to shift a little bit because this was some massive breaking news that occurred last week. The FTC took some action against Opendoor. Here's the headline. The FTC takes action to stop this online home buying firm Opendoor from cheating potential sellers with misleading claims about its home buying service. And Opendoor and the FTC agreed on a $62 million settlement to resolve these claims. Here was a quote from the article that I thought was really bold. It said, Opendoor promised to revolutionize the real estate market, but built its business using old-fashioned deception about how much consumers could earn from selling their homes on the platform. There is nothing innovative about cheating consumers. Ouch. Ouch. Well, what happened? Because this article comes out, and what a lot of people don't know is that this investigation into Opendoor started years ago. This is not something that just happened recently. This was something that happened starting in August of 2020. And what happened was the FTC said that there were misleading practices that were happening. These practices occurred between 2017 and 2019. And I have a screenshot of what Opendoor was doing that caused the FTC to come after them. So what they were doing is they were giving home sellers a cash offer on their home, and they were comparing it next to the traditional home sale. And you can see here on the screen what they were saying to the home sellers that we're going to give you an offer at $200,000. And then they were also saying, not only are we going to give you this offer at $200,000, but if you were to sell on the open market, you would get $200,000. And they also said that how we calculate your home value is by raising comps. And so they were alleging that the cash offer they were giving the consumer was market value. And if you look at how the fees skin out and you look at the net, you can see ultimately, at the end of the day, selling your home to Opendoor made you a couple more $1,000s than it would have had you listed your home on the open market. Now, here was the problem. Opendoor was giving this to home sellers, and home sellers were making their decision based on this. And then after they sold their home to Opendoor, what would happen? Opendoor would turn around and take that same home, and maybe they do some carpet and paint, but they would then relist that home for, $230 or $240 on the open market, and it would sell. This started happening enough times to where consumers started complaining that they were being misled, they were being scammed by Opendoor. So after this happened enough, the FTC stepped in and they indicated to Opendoor we were going to start an investigation. Now, as soon as Opendoor did, or as soon as the FTC started the investigation, Opendoor stopped. They immediately stopped these practices. At that point, we saw a massive shift in how Opendoor operated, really. And in some markets, Opendoor will even bring in an outside real estate agent to present that cash offer and also share the open market offer with the home seller. So I think it's really important that we all know that these are not things that Opendoor is still doing. I think that there was a lot of misconception out there that Opendoor is still actively involved in these deceptive practices. Another really interesting thing I want to share with you is this is exactly why we started this company, because we saw this happening firsthand in our market. We saw Opendoor giving a home seller a cash offer and pitting it against a market value that was the same exact number as that cash offer. And so we knew that, hey, convenience is cool and selling your home online can be cool, but you also need a fiduciary on your side to make sure that these offers and options you're getting make sense. And also to make sure you understand, if you're leaving money on the table, how much that might be. And so really interesting stuff. You think $62 million, you think that, is this the beginning of the end of Opendoor? That is a ton of money. And the answer is no. Opendoor has over $2 billion in cash on their balance sheet. Unfortunately, this is a drop in the bucket for them and is really not going to impact them whatsoever. In addition, Opendoor did disclose this FTC investigation on their S1 filings when they went public. So this was nothing new to investors and was not a real big shock. In fact, Opendoor stock didn't really do anything. It didn't go down. It didn't really do much on the breaking of this news. It's not the first time, though, that Opendoor has faced regulation. Back in April of 2022, North Carolina Real Estate suspended Opendoor for 18 months due to some disclosure issues and disclosure errors. Now, it's important to note that the North Carolina Real Estate Commission didn't think that Opendoor was being, malicious. Instead, they thought that maybe Opendoor was just making mistakes and being negligent. But what we're knowing is that they are facing some intense scrutiny in markets and with regulators. Now, on the eve of the FTC fine breaking, Opendoor also announced their exclusives. If you haven't heard of this, you're going to, because right now it's only in 3 markets in Texas. It's in Dallas, Houston, and Austin. But what the Opendoor exclusives are is a private MLS, if you will, of off-market homes where buyers can tour, self-guided, at a time of their choosing. And during a 14-day window, these buyers can click to buy and sign the contract. And if they do so, it's theirs. After 14 days, if the home hasn't sold, then the company will list the home on the MLS. They're going to raise the price, and then it'll be open to everybody. But this is a really, really important and interesting thing to pay attention to, because if Opendoor in Arizona, for instance, in the Phoenix market, have about 10% of our active inventory, quite substantial right now. But as you can imagine, if that 10% of homes was on a private MLS, well, there are a lot of missed opportunities for representation by a realtor for these properties being sold in their exclusive platform. In addition to announcing their Opendoor exclusives, you can now sell your home on Zillow to Opendoor. This was a big breaking partnership. Zillow and Opendoor came together for a multi-year partnership, and now home sellers on Zillow can request that Opendoor offer right through the Zillow platform. So for those of us that thought that Zillow was out of the iBuying game, we are wrong. We stand corrected. Zillow is right back in it, and Zillow has partnered up with Opendoor to provide cash offers to home sellers. I'm not surprised. When Zillow got out of the game, we said they will be back. At the beginning of this year, we made 5 bold real estate predictions, and number 2 was that Zillow would be back in the iBuying game somehow, some way, and this is the way. It's going to be really interesting to see how this skins out. You have Opendoor that just got this massive fine from the FTC for misleading consumers. You've got Zillow, who just lost $1 billion on the iBuying program, laid off thousands of people, and now they're back in the game with Opendoor. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, but there is no doubt that we must adapt our business to this as well. Because what we found out here firsthand is that the cash offer is the ultimate hook. If you're a home seller and you're considering selling your home, you are going to reach out for cash offers. So home sellers are going to be going onto Zillow. And if you think about it, a home seller could potentially end up on Zillow, end up with that Opendoor offer, and that house could end up in the Opendoor exclusives, which then could bypass MLS completely and sell off market. So really interesting things happening in the market, and you've really got to think through this and how this could impact your business and set yourself up for success. Because what we know is consumers are addicted to click and convenience. I ran across this. This house runs on coffee, wine, and Amazon Prime. And what we all know is we're not going to pull back from our convenience. We're not going to quit doing our Ubers and our DoorDashes and our Instacarts because we're addicted to convenience. We're addicted to now. And I think that this has translated over into our housing industry. And what we're seeing is home sellers are really seeking out cash offers, easy exits, especially now that this market is shifting. I want to show you that on Google, the trend is for homes for sale. It's at an all-time high. We are at 100 on it only goes to 100. So people are searching home or sell my home at a record rate. It's up 22% year over year. I also want to draw your attention to this. Look at Opendoor as a company. It is trending alongside Sell My Home. So what is happening is consumers are searching out Sell My Home. They're also searching out Opendoor. So also note a breakout search trend is, should I sell now or wait until 2023? I talk about this all the time, but I just want to remind you that you must be making content around these questions. These are the questions that are keeping home sellers and home buyers up at night. Is now the time or should I wait? And so if you have not made content around, is now the time to sell your home or should you wait till 2023? I would highly suggest that you do that, write that down, make that part of your action plan for this week. It is really going to serve the people watching your content because it's exactly what they're thinking. Answer that question for them. Also wanted to point out this, if you go Sell My House on Google and you look at the autofill suggestions, check out what comes up. Sell my house fast, sell my house for cash, sell my house to Zillow. Zillow isn't even buying anymore, but it is still something that consumers are searching out. Sell my house and rent it back. Check this one out. Sell my house myself. Sell my house without a realtor. Again, if you want to make content that people search out, those are two ones that they search out. Make content around that. Show them how they could go sell their house without you. Show them all that is involved in this process that we do, from marketing to getting the buyer to going through and clearing inspections and contingencies to problem solving financing and loan contingencies to dealing with the close to getting that done to keeping all parties happy. Explain that to them. Show them that process. But then look what else comes up as well. Sell my house to Opendoor and sell my house online. So if we don't think that this is a new trend, then our heads are in the sand and we're completely ignoring reality. Because the new trend is the cash offer, is the instant out, is easy, is convenient, is speed, is certainty. And so how are you getting on board and adapting your business to that? The average home seller would give up $45,000 to sell their home instantly. We know the median priced home, this is about 10% of their equity is what they're willing to give up to sell instantly. This was data that was revealed by the Clever American Attitudes Toward iBuying Companies. And I think it's really insightful because what it shows is that home sellers don't just care about the price that they're going to get. They care about the service that they're going to get. And if that is convenient and if that is certain, then that is something that they are willing to pay for. On the other hand, they're willing to pay for it, but they do want you on their side. You can look at this that shows 72% of home sellers would like a real estate agent on their side to help get these offers from iBuyers and navigate the sale. This is beautiful news for you because it allows you to position yourself as the one who comes to them with the offers and options, and you can start that entry point with them, guide them through that process. If the cash offers and selling solutions don't work, great. You are the one that's built that trust, that's front loaded into that relationship, and you are the one that they are going to end up listing their home on the market with. So I want to talk for a moment about what we call the easiest way to move. Here are some of the programs that we offer at Zoodealio. We have cash offers. And what this is just a competitive cash offer. Now, I will let you know that a lot of the public and private funds that buy homes are being more aggressive. And so, maybe 6 months ago, the cash offer would have been $400,000. And if you come for that cash offer today, it might only be $350,000. So we are seeing them be way more aggressive than they were a few months ago. And we kind of anticipate that until the market kind of starts to stabilize and until they kind of know where this bottom is, that they are going to be more aggressive. But nonetheless, they are still buying. They're just buying more aggressively. We also have our Cash Plus offer, and I'm going to deep dive into that in just a moment. And what that is a cash offer with the upside of the open market. We have our sell and stay offer, which is the cash offer with a flexible leaseback for up to 12 months. And then of course we have our cash buyer program, which is your ability to turn your buyer into a cash buyer to compete with the power of cash. You might be thinking, why would I do that now when there's not as many multiple offers and bidding wars? Well, the answer is there was a study from the University of San Diego, California that said on average over the past 40 years, cash buyers received an 11% discount over finance buyers. So by using the cash buyer program, you can put your buyer in a position to really have powerful negotiation in the transaction. Let's deep dive now into the cash plus offer because I really want us to unpack this, understand how we can use this in our business. And I want to give you also an example. I want to show you how it works and how the numbers work out. So here's kind of the overview. The cash plus offer is a market value cash offer with the upside of the open market. Okay, so when that cash offer comes in, the cash offer is going to come in at what we believe the home would sell for on the open market. This is also a really great listing retention tool for you because what happens if a house sells to a cash offer company most of the time is then you don't get the opportunity to have that listing on the market. And what we know is listings are leverage. And when you have listings, you get buyer calls, you get sign calls, you can do open housing, you can do, canvassing the neighborhood, and you can use that success to have more success in your business. So with the cash plus offer, if the seller accepts that cash offer, then you are going to be the one that will sell the home on the market. Here are the fees and the commission that are attached to this cash plus offer. So there is a 6% service fee. There's also a 6% resale fee. And you make between 5 to 6% commission depending on the offer. And keep in mind that you will need to set aside a portion of this to pay the buyer broker once the home goes on the open market. Now, here's kind of the interesting thing about this offer and what makes it kind of special and unique is that we do charge a risk assessment. So essentially there are two payouts to the home seller. There is that first payout where we pay the seller out less the risk assessment, less the service fee, and less the resale fee. But when the home sells on the open market, the seller is paid out again. They're returned the risk assessment. If the home sells for the same amount as the offer that was made, then all of the risk assessment is returned. If the home sells for more than the cash offer that was made, all of the risk assessment is returned plus whatever that upside was on the open market. If the home sells for less than the offer that was made, whatever that difference is would be deducted out of the risk assessment, and then that would be returned to the home seller. So I have kind of skinned out an example for us all to look at, just because I want everybody to really understand how these numbers work. So here's a cash plus example, and this is with a $500,000 purchase price. So the offer amount would be $500,000. You would see that we would be charging a 6% service fee, the 6% resale fee, and then we would also be taking a 10% risk assessment fee. Okay, so that first payout, everyone following me here? That first payout in this scenario would be $390,000. Okay, so let's now look at the second payout. So if the home sells for the same price that we made the offer, if the home sells for $500,000, then we would return the risk assessment fee of $50,000. So you would see that their total payouts then from the first payout and the second payout in that scenario would be $440,000. So now let's take the scenario if the home sold for $510,000. So the home sells for $10,000 more on the open market. We're going to return the risk assessment fee, which is the $50,000. And then we're also going to return the upside made on the open market. In this scenario, it would be $10,000. So we'll be returning on the second payout $60,000 to the seller for a total payout of $450,000. And then the third scenario is what happens if the home sells for less. So in this scenario, let's say the home sells for $490,000. We're going to take the risk assessment fee less the difference between what the offer amount was and what the home sold for on the open market, which in this scenario is $10,000. And we are going to return $40,000 to the home seller for total payouts of $430,000. So this is a scenario for you of it broken down of how all of the fees work. And I know you might have questions. So I want to just take your questions now and kind of go through this. And I want to share some ideas and ways that you can use this in your business. So my first kind of thought is, lead with these value propositions. So if you're taking a listing, get the cash plus offer before you take the listing, before you go live on the MLS. Get this offer for your home seller. This is a great base because see what we're seeing happening all across the US right now. We're having right now we have cash plus offers being accepted in over a dozen states right now. And what we're seeing is that home seller starts their journey. Maybe they get the cash plus offer. They decide to list on the MLS, which is great. It's great. Go for it. House gets listed on the MLS. 30 days go by. Nothing happens. They weren't planning on the home taking 30 days to sell. And so at that point, they start to get a little anxious. They start to get a little nervous and they want to revisit that cash offer because they know they have it. And it's kind of a way for them to have peace of mind. And we're seeing sellers accept that cash offer after they've already listed and tried marketing their home on the MLS, which is great, which is fine. We will absolutely do that. One kind of piece of advice for you is if the seller is contemplating, maybe you did this exact scenario, right? You got them the cash offer. They decided that it didn't make sense. They wanted to try the open market and you list on the open market. But after, 2-3 weeks, a month, they decide, oh man, we want to revisit this cash offer. And maybe we're also thinking price reduction. Before you reduce your price, if they're considering the cash plus offer, talk to us first before you reduce your price. Because what will happen is if you take a substantial price reduction, well, then we have to refactor that into our numbers because that number was out there on the MLS. So I would just say that if you know your home seller is thinking that they may want to revisit that cash offer, don't adjust price yet until you've revisited the cash offer. So that's kind of my first little thought. And my second thought is if you have a home that's on the market and you didn't get the cash plus offer for them, get it. Get that cash plus offer. Because see, what you can do is you can start a conversation coming from certainty. You can show them a very certain and clear path of how they can sell right now and get out from that home right now. But you can also use it as an excellent way to have a great price reduction strategy because the cash plus offer is more expensive. The fees are very transparent. And I have a question here from Mike. I love your questions, Mike. Yes, for clarification, the service fee is made by the buyer. So it's not actually Zoodealio that buys the home. It's another company. So whatever company that is actually buying the home would make the service fee. So in this scenario, it would be 6%. Now keep in mind, once they take on the home, they're taking on the HOA, they're taking on the taxes, they're taking on the maintenance, they're taking on any repairs that might come up. So they're taking all of that on. And of course, there is cost to that, plus their holding costs, etc. Another question from Mike on the cash plus, must the seller vacate at the first payout? So not always. We can structure a flexible lease back, but on the cash plus offer, it's not going to be for like a very extended period of time. So if you have a seller that needs a late checkout, if they need 7-14 days, that can be arranged. But if you have someone that's really looking for a longer lease back, then we would need to know that up front. The main reason is because, the investor that will fund the cash plus deals really isn't in these to hold them for a long period of time. So if we know up front that the seller would like to lease it back and stay in that home for a little bit longer, well, then we would go to a different investor with that opportunity and get the numbers from them. So keep that in mind. If you need a lease back and it's longer than, just a week or two, then it would probably be a different offer structure. And then if they stay, how is rent determined? So that's a great question as well, Mike. If the seller stays, how do we determine what that lease back amount would be? And essentially it's just going to be whatever the investor's cost of capital is, and that is what they're going to ask the seller to pay on a daily basis. I hope that answers some of your questions there. I want to share with you another idea, another really cool way we see this offer structure being used to make the home more presentable on the open market. So I kind of have this saying in this market, it's either a pricing war or a beauty contest. So if you have a home that needs a little bit of TLC, it might not do so well in this market, right? Buyers are more picky. They're paying top dollar because of interest rates. And so if we want to, we can take some of that risk assessment, and after we buy the home, what we do is we can go in and we can do, maybe some carpet, some paint, painting cabinets, maybe putting new countertops in, just kind of some light updates and light renovations to really make that home pop on the open market. And so that is an amazing strategy. So if you have a seller whose home needs a little bit of TLC, this cash plus strategy can be an excellent way for them to sell quickly, maybe update their home so that it fetches more on the open market. And with this offer structure, all of that upside on the open market would go back to the home seller. So we see this strategy being used quite often, and it's an awesome strategy because a lot of people, they're cash strapped, but they got a ton of equity in their home. So something like this, a scenario like this kind of makes sense for them, and it allows them to accomplish multiple goals while selling their home without having to list it on the open market. So great scenario when we can kind of take some of that risk assessment and then make repairs after the home closes. All right, I got a couple more questions here. Mike asked, am I correct in remembering you had another program that was designed to allow for a long-term rent back? If yes, which was that one? Yes, Mike, we do have an offer. It's our sell and stay offer, or sell now, move later. And what that is it's a cash offer. It's essentially really similar to this. It's a cash offer with 2 payouts, and there is a month-to-month lease. It's very flexible. It can go for 12 months. We can even extend that for 6 months twice. So, I guess you could be in there for 24 months essentially on a month-to-month flexible lease back. So another great offer and option. When I look back at, let me see if I can go back here. I go back to this, and when I look at what people are Googling, and they are Googling sell my house and rent it back. And so that is a great offer structure. It does really, really well. Someone had asked me last week, what offer is being accepted the most right now? And right now, the cash plus offer is being accepted the most. I would say a year ago, that sell and stay offer was banging. People loved it. And I think a lot of people had new builds, or a lot of people thought, maybe I'm at the top of the market and I want to get out now. And so that offer was the sell now, move later offer a year ago probably was one of our leaders. Right now it's kind of shifted, and we're seeing this cash plus offer do very, very well. And I think that for a few reasons, I think that a lot of sellers are putting their home on the market and their home's not selling as quickly as they wanted it to. And so then they're really open to these different structures, and they're open to a way that they can clear and get out now. All right. So, here's another question from Mike. On the Cash Plus, are we involved in the rehab, or does the investor do it all? Great question. So it can be, you can be, or we can as well. So 2 ways that could work. We also work with a couple companies that come in and do rehab nationwide. So we work with a company called Curdio. We also work with a company called Revive. And so we're happy to bring them in and do that. We just did one in Colorado that they did a great job. It was awesome. And it worked out beautifully. But we can also use your local trusted vendors as well. So if you have, a carpet guy and a painter and a handyman, and we can also work with you and use your trades as well. So it can be a combination of both, and just kind of whatever makes sense. Sometimes the Curbio and the Revive solutions tend to be a little bit more expensive. And so if you've got those great contractors and connections, boots on the ground, we are happy to work with you on that. Yeah, you love that you don't have to be involved. Okay, great. Good. Well, yeah, and everybody is so different, and every property is different, and so it's not totally a one size fits all. We totally understand that things are different, and we're flexible on that. So great offer structure. I hope this gave you a little bit of clarity on what this would look like and how the numbers skin out, etc. If you guys have any questions on this, always feel free to hit us up. Let us know. We're happy to explain it. Happy to go over it with you. And maybe take a picture of this so that if next time you're out there in the field and you're thinking through it, you've got this handy. And then also, whenever you do submit an offer request and you get an offer back, you will receive a breakdown of the offer, very similar to this, showing you what the seller gets now, what the seller gets later, etc. If you have any questions when it comes to that and you're soliciting that offer, please ask us. We want to be able to help. We want to be able to give you all the information you need so that you can really get out there and present that offer well to your home sellers. All right. Expired listings. This is like the old faithful of real estate prospecting, isn't it? So expired listings are a thing. They're happening. It's really interesting to note that they were up 39% so far this year. I think we're only going to see that increase. Expired listings also are highly likely to sell. This was last year's data, but in 2021, 1 in 5 homes that expired were relisted within 30 days. So we know that these are people that are highly likely to relist their home with another real estate agent. And so if you're looking for a way to build that listing inventory, going after expired listings is a great way to do it. Now, here is the thing with expired listings. I think using the cash plus offer to kind of be your gateway in the door is an excellent way to get them to talk to you. What happens when a listing expires is that seller is flooded with phone calls. And usually the phone calls and the text messages and the solicitations that they get are geared towards, hey, we can do better marketing for your home. We can really expose your home and get it sold. Well, home sellers might be a little wary of that messaging. And yes, canceled listings as well, as long as that listing is completely unattached to a broker in your MLS, then you are good to go after it. Here in my market, the canceled and expireds are fair game. If a market has been temporarily taken off the market, however, or if a home has been temporarily taken off the market, that is not a status we are allowed to pursue in my market. But canceled expireds are fair game, and I'm going to lump those up into the expired category. Go after them. Most of the messaging that these home sellers are receiving once their home doesn't sell is like, hey, I'm a better marketer. Well, I mean, it takes a little bit more than a 3D scan and, twilight photos and, maybe some light staging. What you really want to do is you want to differentiate yourself with the messaging that you're giving that consumer. You want to go for the Zillow play. You want to go for the cash offer play. And so what I say is if you're going to go after expired listings, here's a super simple script that you could be using to do so. Hey, I noticed your home expired from our MLS database. Would you be interested in selling your home without having to relist it on the market? How simple is this script? And you know what I'm getting to? They're probably going to engage with this because of course they would. Of course they would love to sell their home without having to relist it and go through that uncertainty again. I mean, selling a home is stressful, and selling a home when nobody's coming to see it is even more stressful, especially if you need to sell it, right? And so if you've got your home on the market and you're getting really scarce activity, the last thing you want to do is go through that all over again. And so if you can go to these sellers with this scripting and let them know that you have a way that they could sell their home without having to bring it back on market, I think their ears are going to perk up, and I think they're going to be willing to engage with you. And so if you send them this sort of messaging, you're likely going to be getting back something like, well, sure, I'd be interested in that. And that is when you can go in with your cash plus offer. You could even send them the link to your site, letting them know that if they just simply enter their address and upload some photos, they can get some cash offers on their home. The cash plus offer is an amazing way for them to kind of solve their problems, sell the home quickly, cash out, and then get the benefits of the open market. So I wanted to just kind of simply share this with you. Now, if you're going to go after expired listings, it's not going to be a one and done strategy for getting after those folks. You are going to have to put some intention behind it, some planning behind it, and you're really going to have to be consistent with your reach outs and your follow-ups to these folks, because it is not just a one message and you are in the door. These people are being bombarded. We know that there are a lot of realtors out there that are hungry for business and, probably going after some of these same ways of connecting with these expired canceled listings. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that you're going to have to be very diligent in your efforts to reach them. But I think you have messaging that will separate you from everybody else. So wanted to share that with you today, and really wanted to kind of peel it back to what is it going to take to have massive success in this market. And I love this one. Success comes in cans, not cannots. So what can you do this week? But it really always comes down to what will you do this week? What are you committed to doing this week to grow your business? I really want you to be thinking about that. Maybe before you leave this call today, get out a piece of paper, write down the 1, 2, 3 things that you are going to do this week to grow your business. And then attack them, get after them, get it done. Give your future self something to be thankful for. Hey, I appreciate everybody that was here with me today. I will be back next Monday. I'm going to be going into the Opendoor and OfferPad quarterly reports. We're going to kind of skin out what iBuyer market share is looking like. How are these companies doing once profitable? Any guesses on to who? And we're going to kind of look at how we can continue growing our business using the cash offer hooks. Thank you so much for being a part of today's call. I will see you next Monday.